Martin, joined by Teddy Covers. We're getting you ready, teeing you up for getting on the right side of some of these line moves, both sides and totals. Teddy, don't want to keep you waiting too long, man. Welcome on in. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm doing all right this morning, man. It's a busy time of year. As soon as the NBA starts for me, all of a sudden it's like you move from one sport to the next to the next. That's the way it looks from now until the end of college football. So it's a busy time of year. And I had a crappy weekend in the NFL. I felt like I left a lot on the table and ended up on whatever. We'll talk about it as we go through this. But I won my big play yesterday, but I wasn't pleased overall with the results. So we'll see if we do better this week. It's a humbling business, my friends. It doesn't matter how good you are, how long you've been doing it. You're going to have weekends that are subpar. Unfortunately, I went 1-2 yesterday. This was one of those weekends for myself and my clients.
All right, it's not too bad, Teddy. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is humbling. But hey, including myself, we're just talking with Dan, the producer. We learn a lot from you listening to this show. It's about the information, guys. So, yeah, we're going to get after it here. Actually, just hit the Monday Nighter quickly for the people watching live and on Monday here, Teddy. It's the New York Football Giants and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers -6, Monday Night Football, 36 in the hook. Giants at Steelers from the Steel City. Anything quickly on this one?
Yeah, and it is worth noting that even though I had a 1-2 NFL weekend, I'm still at 63% over the last 5 weeks. So it wasn't a good day, but it's been all right. And I expect it to continue to be all right. There's a good handful of teams I've got pretty good reads on right now in the National Football League. When it comes to Monday Night Football, somebody just took out all the 6.5s for the Steelers. There were 6.5s out there. Now we're looking at 6s. I don't think it goes any lower than 6. We haven't seen a whole lot of over money for this one. Total's been sitting 36.5, and it was as high as 38, 39 at some books at the open. I'm seeing 36.5 pretty well across the board right now. There is a 37 out there if you shop around and find it. But the bottom line, today, we've seen Wise Guy move on the G-Men plus 6.5, and we've seen under money pretty consistently in this one. I'm not anticipating anything very different between now and kickoff.
All right, guys, getting the opening line report started here. Week number 9, Thursday, October 31st. A little Halloween special for you. We get Houston and the New York Jets. Jets -1 at most shops here, Teddy. 42 in the hook being the total. Texans at Jets Thursday night.
Yeah, with all of these games, I give you 4 sets of point spreads. The first one, we call it the look-ahead line. That was a bettable line on this game from last week. I used the numbers from the Westgate Superbook. There are a handful of books that have them, but I use a Superbook because I've been using them for 27 years, and they're the big boys here in Vegas. So very comfortable using their numbers. I trust their numbers as being an accurate depiction of what the markets were expecting to see this number at this week. Then I'm also going to give you my powering number. My powering number is real simple. Team A, Team B, home field. I don't factor in situations with a pure powering number. I'm going to give you the opener from last night, and then I'll give you where the money has come and what the current line is for this one. So look ahead line, Jets -2, total 42.5. My powering number, Texans -1.5. Markets open, pick 'em in 43 last night. And we're seeing, as you mentioned, mostly -1s out there for the Jets right now. We have seen under money as well. So a little bit of Jets money, a little bit of under money from the open. Now, you say, what the hell is the money coming in on the Jets for? And obviously the Jets the Jets were awful again yesterday. And the 5-game losing streak, yesterday's loss was the worst of the bunch. They weren't ready to play from the opening kick. They burned 3 timeouts in the first quarter because the play clock was about to expire. This is a team that 3 weeks ago, they had a chance to move into first place, and now they're tied with last place for the Patriots. And, it's just a nightmare in New York. And for all the Jets' issues, I'm pointing the finger at one guy. It was Greg Zuerlein again. Greg Zuerlein, the kicker, cost them the Broncos game. He cost them the Bills game, and he cost them this game yesterday. And he's still on the team. When you have a team struggling, when your kicker costs you 3 games, the problem. He missed an extra point. Then, because he missed extra point, the Jets went for the 2-point conversion because they burned timeouts. They didn't call a timeout there, had a delay of game penalty, and failed on the 2-point conversion from the 7. Then Zuerlein missed a 44-yard field goal. And then the Pats, because the Jets had missed that first extra point and the 2-point conversion, got a 2-point conversion of their own because they had to go for 2 there. So literally, Zuerlein is the difference between winning by 3 versus losing by 3. And they lost by 3. Yeah. So you read the quotes after the game. Jeff Ulbrich It's a moment of darkness. Aaron Rodgers, I've been in the darkness. You got to go in there and make peace with it. Tyler Conklin, quote, 5 losses in a row is pretty damn dark. Shit, 1 or 2 losses in a row can get dark. This sucks. Short week for the Jets. I don't know that's a good thing. All that being said, there's a reason the Jets have taken money here. From a spot standpoint, this is not a great spot for Houston. They're coming off a very satisfying divisional win, came down to the wire against Indy. Now they have a 2-game lead on Indy plus the tiebreaker. They're sitting fat and happy in the AFC South. They're on a short week. And guess what? This receiving core is really banged up. Nico Collins is a hamstring injury. Steph Diggs hurt his knee yesterday. So the number 1 receiver here would be Tank Dell. That's not what I want. And, of course, they have issues on the offensive line as well. Stroud under a lot of pressure yesterday. So the markets don't like the spot for Houston. They don't like the injury report for Houston. And they don't like the matchup of Houston's offensive line against the Jets' in theory, strong defensive front 7. So that's why we're seeing Jets money here. Although anyone that's had money on the Jets in any of the last 5 weeks may not be likely to bet on them here. The wise guys have clearly said Jets are the play for this game.
What a breakdown to start us off here Thursday night, Teddy. Great start, man. Moment of darkness. Like that little quote. We got New England and Tennessee, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern, as we flip the script here towards Sunday in Week 9 NFL. -3, most shops with juice. That's the Titans as the favorite. Yes, you heard that right. The Titans as a favorite. 37.5, 38 being the total. Patriots at Titans from Nashville.
Well, somebody's got to win this game, right? Or someone's got to be favored. We could see a tie. Wouldn't shock us. That being said, the look-ahead line here, Titans, 3.5, 38.5. My powering number was a straight 3. The markets opened 3 with a little bit of juice last night, and that's basically what I'm seeing today, 3 with a little bit of juice. There are books where you can get 3 minus 110 if you shop around. 38 sitting at the prevailing current total. Now, certainly, there were some positive signs for the Patriots yesterday. The power rating doesn't change all that much from Jacoby Brissett to Drake May. May was knocked out of the game yesterday, and then Brissett took over and guided the Patriots to victory. I don't know yet who's going to play in this one. Of course, the Gerard Mayo called the Patriots soft, and they ended up coming back with their first win at home in more than a year. Jacoby Brissett, quote, "We got a challenge earlier this week," talking about Mayo's comments. The guys came out and responded well. We pushed it in at the end. They scored the win. I think that accomplished a lot of things throughout the season. Just hoping this is a snowball effect, the start of something special. That being said, New England does have the worst receiving core in the league. It's not close. They're not creating separation. We had drops from everybody. Bouette had drops. Thornton had a drop. Bourne had multiple drops. And New England off a win hasn't necessarily been bet on in any recent season. That being said, the Titans, I don't even know how to describe yesterday's game. Yes, they won the box score. 416 yards to 225, 23 first downs to 17, 5.9 yards per play to 48. They had nearly 300 yards of offense at halftime yesterday, and they were down by 3 touchdowns at the break. They allowed 4 different Lions drives to start from inside their own the Tennessee 25-yard line. He gave up a 72-yard kick return, and then a 90-yard punt return, and a 64-yard punt return as well. Detroit had more than 300 return yards in the game, counting kicks, punts, interceptions. They were gashed by Jahmyr Gibbs for the first drive of the game. They just hand off to Gibbs, and Gibbs just goes around the side. Boom! 70-yard touchdown. Simple handoff, and it got worse. Calvin Ridley had a huge game for Tennessee. Tony Pollard had a huge game. That's the best I've seen Mason Rudolph play at quarterback since he was a freshman and led Oklahoma State the outright upset at Oklahoma. I remember that game, and Mason was great in that game, and he was great yesterday. And they were never in the game. They lost by 5 touchdowns. The defense missed more assignments than I could count. They allowed 5 for 5 in red zone touchdowns. Yeah. And then, of course, the 1st and goal from the 1 before halftime. They had 1 timeout left, 4 incomplete passes, 0 points, game over. Brian Callahan after the game, quote, "You're going to get blown out by every team in the league turning the ball over 4 times. We just don't complement each other at all. Right now, our special teams gives up yards. Our defense isn't going to stop. We don't do anything on offense, and we turn it over. everything needs to be better. This is not a confident team and not a team that's complimenting themselves. That's why the 3.5 didn't hold for Tennessee against New England.
Second game up as we're going down in rotation order. 4-5-3, 4-5-4, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here. LA Chargers, Cleveland Browns. We are seeing the Browns. Well, actually, the Chargers, -2. There is -1.5 out there as the short road favorite. Teddy, 42 or 42 in the hook being the total. We have seen some over money, it looks like. So it's Chargers at Browns from Cleveland.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Chargers -4.5. The Browns got a nice win yesterday. Jameis played well. Therefore, open 2.5. My powering number came 3 on this ball game, and we're seeing 2.5, 40 last night. Lots of over money. Jameis is clearly the over quarterback for Cleveland. Now we're seeing 2s and 42.5 right now. So the market's a little bit higher on the Browns than I am, and certainly we've seen a fair bit of over money in this one. Even though the Chargers defense forced 9 punts yesterday. Really balanced offense from LA against New Orleans. 29 carries, 35 dropbacks. Ladd McConkey had his first breakout game, 107 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns. Herbert was sacked 3 times in that game. It's the 5th straight game he's been sacked multiple times. That's not necessarily a good thing. And the offensive line couldn't control the line of scrimmage for J.K. Dobbins. I do have my concerns about the Chargers OL matching up against the strong defensive line for Cleveland. That being said, there was something happened in the game yesterday for the Chargers that I think really helps their team chemistry. Not that their chemistry was a problem, but there was an issue where one of the opposing defenders had Justin Herbert on the ground and was giving him the business a little bit. And Brad Bozeman, the center, basically kicked the guy's butt, got a personal foul call, and got applauded by everyone on the sideline, got the game ball after the game in the locker room. Harbaugh, everyone knows Justin got a bad ankle. I don't blame Bozeman. I don't encourage it at all, but I don't blame him, and he gave him the game ball after. That's a positive team chemistry experience. When, you expect it, but to see it happen like that, I think is a good sign. Of course, Cleveland had the first positive team chemistry experience in quite some time in yesterday's game. Jameis Winston, 27 of 41, 331 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks against the Ravens defense. You had Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, all with 5 catches or more. They went 0-2 in the red zone. They lost the turnover battle, and they pulled the outright upset as a TD dog. Now, admittedly, Kyle Hamilton should have notched the game-winning interception on an awful pass by Winston. Instead, it bounced off his hands several times, and the very next play was a touchdown pass to win the ball game. Jameis, quote, "A win like this is required to change the season around. We have a long way to go." It is worth noting Cleveland's top cornerback, Denzel Ward, went out into the concussion protocol yesterday. He's had at least 5 concussions previously in his NFL career. If he doesn't play here, that in my mind is an impact injury that may not be fully reflected in the point spread adjustment for someone like Denzel Ward being out. So there you have it, Browns and Chargers.
Great breakdown, Teddy. I love the analysis there, man. I don't encourage it from Harbaugh saying, I don't encourage it, but here's the game ball. Gotta love that.
Yeah.
New Orleans and Carolina up next, guys, 10 a.m. Pacific here. We get -6 in the hook. That's the Saints as the road favorite, 44 being the total. Saints at Panthers. Next game up, TC.
Look ahead line here, Saints -4.5 and 46. My powering number is Saints -6. That's with Carr back behind center, as he's expected to be this week. The markets only think he's going to be back. 6.5 and 44 last night, 6.5 and 44 today. We've seen very little line move on this, and won't, I should think, until we know who's going to be the starting quarterback for either of these two teams. Look, the Saints are getting some guys back. They got Chris Olave back from injury. He had 8 catches for 107 yards, immediate impact. Taysom Hill back from injury. He threw a pass. He had 4 carries. He had 4 targets. And more guys that they've had a ton of injuries, but more guys will be back in the next month or so, including, as I mentioned, Carr, who returned to practice last week and could well be back in the lineup this week. Spencer Rattler got benched in the third quarter. Jake Hayner, he's not an NFL quarterback either. They combined, there were good things, 22 completions, 6.7 yards per pass attempt, no turnovers. but they did go take 5 sacks between them and 2 of 16 on third downs. My powering number for the Saints changes, obviously, when you're looking at Carr versus a Rattler, but it's not a situation like we've seen in some of these spots, like Miami, where you better, change your power rating more than a touchdown when the starting QB's out. This one, Carr's worth a couple of points, maybe he's worth a field goal. Of course, the Saints now are 2-6. They've lost 6 straight for the first time since 2005. Dennis Allen is on the hot seat pretty significantly. Quote, I think we all understand it's a results-oriented business, and we need to play better football. Good luck with that. My Saints under 7.5 wins for the season. A big ticket report from back over the summer. Didn't look good after 2 games. Looks a little bit better now. Of course, if you don't want the Saints, you got to take the Panthers in this game. Both their touchdowns yesterday came off lost fumbles against Denver. And look, I've seen a couple times where the Panthers come out, they open the game, they forced a fumble, they march down the field in the end zone. You're like, oh, this is different from Carolina. It's not all that different from the Falcons game a couple of weeks ago. They're good the first drive, then they lost 38-20. Both touchdowns came off fumbles by Denver. They stopped the run. I'll give them credit there. No carries longer than 10 yards, 3.2 yards per play allowed. But here's what Sean Payton said about Carolina after the game. Quote, it's not a good offense we played. It's just the truth. We're going to see a lot better teams. Dave Canales trying to give the team some kind of spark. Quote, I'm proud of the guys for the way we finished the fight. We continue to play hard all the way throughout. Canales not ready to name his starting quarterback. We don't know if it's going to be Andy Dalton or Bryce Young. Young was no better yesterday. He's 2-17 in his career right now as a starting NFL quarterback. And, of course, Carolina also without both starting wide receivers, Deontay Johnson and Adam Thielen. They lost to the Saints 47-10 on opening day. They get revenge here? Not with my money.
Teddy, you teased the Miami Dolphins and Tua. Their next game up here is the Dolphins head up to New York to face the Buffalo Bills. We are seeing Bills -6. There is a 6 and a hook out there in the global market. 49 being the total. Dolphins at Bills AFC East matchup here with the changes with the Miami Dolphins offense, TC.
Look ahead line, Bills -5.5, 48. My powering number, Bills -6.5. Markets opened 6 and 48 last night, and we're seeing 6 and 48.5 last night, and now we're seeing mix of 6 and 6.5, probably more 6.5 than 6s, and total up to 49, 49.5. There is even a 50 out there, so we're seeing a little bit of Buffalo money and a little bit of over money for this one. And look, there were some really good things for the Dolphins yesterday. Season high 27 points, season high 337 yards. They only punted twice. They had 150 rushing yards. Tua didn't miss a beat while he was out. They're up 2 scores in the fourth quarter. They're supposed to win that game. And they didn't. There was a bad snap over Tua's head in the third quarter. There was obviously some defensive issues at the end of the ballgame. The quotes after the game were positive. Mike McDonald, I think the biggest thing he knew was his teammates were going to give him a chance to get a pretty clean game. He had a good amount of clean pockets. When he didn't, he was decisive, and he kept himself out of harm's way. Tyreek Hill, he came back, got the offense going. That was a beautiful thing to see. We scored some points today, so that was a positive. That being said, Miami found a way to lose the game. They've been doing that all year, with the exception of the Patriots game. They haven't won a whole lot of the tight ones. And defensively, this is a team that continues to struggle. So I talked about the Saints and their season win bet. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose the Buffalo Bills under. Flat out. That's, there's a miracle if Josh Allen gets hurt or something happens. But every worry I had about the Bills before the season, it was wrong. Josh Allen's been great. James Cook, 111 yards on the ground yesterday. Again, receiving core is just fine. The defense is just fine. Seattle has 17 carries for 32 yards in that game. They're buyers at the deadline. They're going for it this year. Amari Cooper only had 2 targets and 1 catch for 3 yards. But when you have Amari Cooper on the field along with Keon Coleman and Shakir, lo and behold, Coleman and Shakir both had huge games. Defensive line with a goal line stand after an interception. They won the yardage battle by more than 200. They won a game comfortably where they had 13 penalties. There's a lot to like about the Buffalo Bills right now. Miami, they still have some issues.
Teddy, moving down the list here, we're going to the ATL, 1 o'clock Eastern, Dallas Cowboys, Atlanta Falcons. We are seeing the Dirty Birds, -2.5 at home. Some shops having some juice on that 2.5. 52 being the total. Cowboys at Falcons from Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, look ahead line was Atlanta -2.5, 48.5. My powering number was Atlanta -2.5. Opened last night, Atlanta -2.5 and 48. And we're seeing today, Atlanta -2.5 and 52. A big move to the over on this one. Again, look ahead was sitting at 48.5. And last night we were seeing 48s. That's what the markets had before Dallas played on Sunday night against the 49ers, a game that did fly over the total. Look, Dak had 2 more picks yesterday. That's his 3rd straight game with multiple interceptions. The first time that's happened to a Cowboy quarterback since 1992. He was sacked twice. The running game, just 19 carries for 56 yards, 2.9 yards per carry. They allowed 223 yards on the ground and 10 yards per pass attempt. Yards per play, Dallas, 4.9. San Francisco, 7.3. -2 turnovers. Defense didn't force any. They made things interesting in the fourth quarter, but again, they're down 27-10 at the time. They had 3 penalties on kickoffs. The special teams isn't there. They're now 2.5 games behind the Commanders, 2 games behind the Eagles in the NFC East. And look what they got to play. Dallas, they're up against it. Atlanta, Philly, Houston, Washington, combined 22-9, their next 4 opponents. Now, they're hoping to have Micah Parsons back, Brandon Cooks back, Marshawn Nealon back, DeMarcus Lawrence back, all within the next few weeks. Don't know if any of those guys are going to be ready to go this week. 2 of their 3 wins, it's a 3-win team, came against the Browns and the Giants. So it's not like Dallas has done a whole lot against quality foes this season. Dak Prescott, quote, "We know what it takes in this league. You get hot, you get rolling, that's all you're looking to do. That's my point, that this is frustrating, but nobody is giving up. Nobody is shook, as you can say, from where we're at. We just got to focus up, get ready to go on the road, get another good team coming up, and do whatever we can to make sure we come out with a victory." So, in my mind, that's a positive quote. Atlanta, another win against Tampa yesterday. He's got 8 touchdowns and 1 interceptions in 2 games against the Bucs. In the other 6 games, Kirk Cousins has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. So he's owned Tampa and been not quite so good against everyone else. And yesterday, they're supposed to win. They're 6.6 yards per play. They're +3 in turnovers. And now they're 4-0 in division. Read these quotes. This tells you why I'm not laying with Atlanta this week. Quote, Kyle Pitts: "This is the first time since I've been here with us having a division lead this late in the season. So it's pretty cool just for us to be a new team with a new vision." Jesse Bates, the safety: "There's a little more urgency this week with it being a divisional opponent. And they were coming off a loss. The mindset was to come in here and take it from them. I thought we did that as a team. Now 4-0 in division. You worry if Atlanta plays Dallas and Dallas comes in with maximum intensity, if the Falcons will be able to match that."
Next one up, we got the Denver Broncos, Baltimore Ravens, 1 o'clock Eastern kick here. It is Ravens, -9-point home favorites, 44.5 or 45 being the total right now. Broncos at Ravens. Next one up, TC.
Look ahead line, Baltimore -10 and 43. My powering number, Baltimore -7. The market split the difference. It was 8.5 and 44 last night, although we're seeing more 9s and 9.5s out there than 8.5s today. Let's call it 9 as a prevailing number right now. So we have seen a little bit of Baltimore money. Obviously, the Ravens coming off a loss, Denver coming off a series of victories. Nonetheless, the early money coming for Baltimore. Bo Nix did a ton of good things again yesterday. 7.7 yards per pass attempt, a 3-0 touchdown to interception ratio. Cortland Sutton had his first 100-yard game of the season, 11 targets, 8 catches. They went 11 of 17 on third downs, and they dominated defensively as well. Bo Nix, quote, "Everyone on the field is making plays, receivers, tight ends, running backs. The ball was being dispersed to a lot of positions. I thought that was good. Tough on a defense when you're getting a lot of guys involved." Sean Payton after the game, the Broncos, quote, "Still aren't playing our best football. Bigger games than this, some of those mistakes are going to cost us." So I like the way, obviously, Payton's approaching this team. He's been bet on. That being said, it's the West Coast or, the Western Conference team traveling east for an early start game. They're facing a Baltimore team that is coming off a loss and a really frustrating loss. The defense held Cleveland to 0 of 2 in the red zone. They gained 5.9 yards per carry. All right. The offense didn't turn the ball over. They were 3 of 4 offensively in the red zone. You're supposed to win those games. Lamar Jackson slamming his helmet down. He was pissed. And there were, just the type of mistakes that kill you. Rashad Bateman, huge drop as Lamar's bringing him back for the game-winning touchdown. Ball hits Bateman right in the face on a cute third down, and he can't catch it. Kyle Hamilton with the game-winning interception in his hands, bobbles it, drops it. The next play is the game-winning touchdown pass. So, Lamar Jackson, quote, "You can look at the Browns' record and say this is a sorry team. This is the NFL. Any week can be your day. We didn't make the plays to win the game." And that's the truth. Now, this is the 8th loss for Baltimore when leading inside the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter since 2022. That's the most losses of any team in the NFL in the final 2 minutes during that span. And, of course, the Ravens defense, which entered the game allowing more points in the fourth quarter than any other team this year, struggled in the fourth quarter again yesterday. Those are concerns. And obviously, you're talking about Marlon Humphrey's hurt, Nate Wiggins hurt, the bench safety Marcus Williams. This secondary has major issues right now, even though against the run, the Ravens pretty much second to none right now.
Interesting handicap. Like the analysis there, Teddy. We'll see if Bo Nix and company can kind of take advantage of the fourth quarter struggles there with the Ravens. Guys, we got next one up, 1 o'clock Eastern kick. Las Vegas Raiders, Cincinnati Bengals. We're seeing Bengals -7 in the hook pretty much across the board here. 45 being the total. Raiders at Bengals from the Queen City, TC.
Look ahead line here with Cincy -9.5 and 45. My powering number is Cincy 6, but I've been off market on Cincinnati, and I'll continue to be off market on Cincinnati because it's making me money. The only thing I did right yesterday was betting Philly against the Bengals, and while it was a sweat early, it was easy late. This Cincy team, again, the markets have them at 7.5, I have them at 6, and that's not because they have the Raiders as a good team. That's because the markets have Cincy higher than I do, and I just don't. I'm not enamored with this Bengals team. Now, there were lots of good things yesterday from the Raiders. Minshew was as good as I've seen him in the NFL. 24-30, 209. Again, he's not taking downfield shots. He did take 5 sacks, but 2 touchdowns, no picks. He made his backers money with that backdoor touchdown scoring drive just before the 2-minute warning, although he may have cost them money with the fumble that he suffered later in the ballgame. But, Vegas was gone from 2-2 to 2-6. That being said, it's the first time they scored 20 points since September, so I guess that's a positive sign. The Raiders offense, 21 carries, 33 yards long of 7, only 4.1 yards per play on offense. Defense LKDC to 4.9. That's good. That being said, defense, only 4 takeaways all year. And, of course, after the only takeaway in the game against Kansas City yesterday, they got it at the Chiefs' 3-yard line, 4 shots at the end zone, and they got stuffed. They ended up losing 5 yards on that drive. Antonio Pierce, quote, "We're trying to establish some physicality with our guys up front. Right there at the 3-yard line, you got to pound it in, turnover, sudden change, should be able to punch that ball in." Yeah, but they didn't. Of course, they did win outright at Baltimore in their only previous early start East Coast game. But then again, that was thievery in that game against the Ravens. They did trail by double digits in the fourth quarter. That was a game that Baltimore found a way to lose as much as Vegas found a way to win.
Teddy, next game up, I believe we got flexed out here to the Sunday Nighter, 465, 466, Indianapolis Colts, Minnesota Vikings. We're seeing Vikings mostly -6. There is 5 and a hook out there, 45.5 being the total. Colts at Vikings, Sunday Night Football here, Teddy.
Look ahead line, it was Minnesota -6.5, 46.5. My powering number is only 5.5 on this ball game. Markets were 6.5/7. Last night. Today we're seeing more 6s and even 5.5s out there, really a split line right now. So for Indy, there are a lot of headlines from this game. Anthony Richardson, 10 of 32 passing, sacked 5 times, hurried 8 more. The offensive line didn't hold up. That being said, Anthony Richardson did average 17.5 yards per completion. How about this little stat for you, Drew? I wrote this one down just for you, my friend. This century, the most yards per pass attempt for any quarterback is Donovan McNabb. He did it one season in Philadelphia at 11.4 yards per pass attempt. This century, any full-time starting QB, I forget if it's 300 or more attempts or 500 or more attempts in a season, whatever it is. Tim Tebow has the lowest completion percentage, 46%. Those are the leaders in the 21st century. In theory, Anthony Richardson could be both. because he ain't completing passes, and when he completes them, he's firing away downfield. And of course, he took a ton of heat. They had to sit a play after 3 straight scrambles, and Flacco handed off. Richardson came back in, and there's controversy off of that. I'm not buying it. If you watch the 3 plays before Anthony Richardson came off, yeah, he has a right to be gassed. That being said, if you're going to hand the ball off anyway, it's not a good look for a team that, a 500-level team. The Colts now 2-0 ATS against Texans, 0-2 straight up. Another close game. 8 games this year for Indy. All 8 have been decided, not even by a touchdown or less, by 6 points or less. You can catch 6 here with the Colts in this ballgame when they're playing one tight game after the next. Shane Steichen, we just got to keep working through it. This ain't about one guy. It's about the team. It's always about the team. Obviously talking about Anthony Richardson and his struggles. For Minnesota, we have some concerns. They're going to have a little extra time. They played on Thursday night, and that's usually a positive thing when you're coming off back-to-back losses. Brian Flores' defense now allowed back-to-back 30-point games. They allowed 3 of 3 red zone touchdowns to the LA Rams. Only 3 pressures on 34 Stafford dropbacks. Where's the pass rush? They had a 25% plus pressure rate in every previous game. Justin Jefferson, 8 catches, 115 yards. The rest of the team, just 10 catches for 125 yards. The weapons weren't there other than Jefferson. And this is an impact injury that is not likely to be properly reflected in the betting marketplace. The Vikings left tackle, Sam Darnold's protector, Christian Darrisaw, out for the year after the Thursday night affair. That, in my mind, an impact injury in the markets. You know what it is, offensive line injuries. When you get 8 of them, maybe you get a half-point adjustment. The markets don't tend to adjust for these injuries nearly enough. So, in my mind, that is a meaningful injury for Minnesota with a QB in Sam Darnold, who we kind of trust, but do we really trust him yet? I don't.
Yeah, great point there, TC. And I love the stat, man. Going back a century, bringing up Tim Tebow, Donovan McNabb, great stuff. I mean, Anthony Richardson, all gas, no brakes. We kind of talked about it on last week's show as well. We get Washington and the New York Giants up next. We get NFC East rivalry game, -3 and a hook, -3 is available, 43 being the total. It's Washington at the New York Giants, TC.
The look-ahead line was Washington -3, total of 44. My powering number is Washington -4 in this ballgame heading into Monday Night Football. The markets opened 3.5 and 43.5 last night, and we're seeing, still 3.5. There are 3s. It's kind of a split line right now. The 3.5s. There's juice to the +3.5 side, and of course, we'll see how the markets react to the Giants tonight. Even if they win the game outright against Pittsburgh, I don't think it's less than 3. I don't. The Commanders are a hot team. They went 0-3 in the red zone yesterday, just like their first meeting against the Giants, where they won with 7 field goals and no touchdowns, 21-18 final in that ball game. And of course, Washington with the thrilling Hail Mary win yesterday. You read the quotes after the game, Jaden Daniels. What were my thoughts? Buy some times and don't throw the ball out of bounds. Smart. They only had 19 seconds left. There was a kickoff return to the 24-yard line, and the defense the Bears played allowed them to pick up a whole bunch of yards to get in position for that. But these are the quotes after the offensive lineman Sam Cosmi. It was like a movie. Front row seats to something amazing. That was just crazy. This will always stick in my head forever. What a moment. In general, with less mature teams like Washington, you worry a lot about a win like that and their ability to come back down to earth and focus on this next opponent. That is certainly a concern here for me. Even against a divisional foe, I worry about Washington being able to bring their A game.
We'll move ahead here to the afternoon kicks up next. 1:05 p.m. Pacific, 4:05 Eastern, 469-470 as we're going down in rotation order using the WagerTalk Live odds screen. We get Chicago and Arizona. Next up, Teddy, pick'em or -1. That is the Cardinals as the, pick'em or home favorite. 44.5 being the total. Bears at Cardinals from the desert.
Look ahead line, Chicago -1.5. 47. My powering number, Chicago -1. The markets open, basically split between Arizona -1 and Pick'em last night. Total 44.5. And that's kind of what we're seeing today. There are some 44s out there for the total. You can find a pick 'em with the Cardinals. You can find a +1 for the Bears, both widely available right now. And we thought Chicago might have some issues coming out of the bye after winning their first 3-game winning streak in years and being pretty fat and happy and getting a week off. And they were. They played awfully yesterday. 5.1 yards per play to 6.7. It was bad before the Hail Mary. Caleb Williams probably had his worst game, 10 of 24 for 131, but even that's misleading. I mean, that offense did nothing before the fourth quarter. It was all DeAndre Swift, who was a monster. They had 196 rushing yards in that ballgame, but Caleb Williams had a rough time of it. Now, they also suffered multiple offensive line injuries. They lost left tackle Braxton Jones in the first half of the knee injury, and a pair of guards, Tevin Jenkins and Bill Murray, both were knocked out of that game in the fourth quarter. So check that injury report. Might have a really banged up Bears OL. And obviously you have the Hail Mary issue for Chicago, where in theory, the guy that's supposed to be one-on-one with the guy who caught the touchdown pass, Tyreek Stevenson, was instead trash talking to the fans when the play started, never got in the right position, and allowed the chaos of that last play. And of course, Stevenson was forced to apologize to everyone in the world on social media after the game. To Chicago and my teammates, my apologies for lack of awareness and focus. The game ain't over till zeros hit the clock. Can't take anything for granted. Notes taken. Improvement will happen. Matt Eberflus. It comes down to that play, and we practiced that play 100 times since we've been here. I'll have to look at what the execution was. But we have a body on a body, boxing guys out like basketball at the very end. I've got to look at it, detail it, and make sure we're better next time. When you lose a game like that, it's a tough one to swallow. Definitely a concern here when you're talking about the focus for a Bears team that they're coming off a loss, but that was a pretty intense game yesterday. I wonder how they'll bounce back. That being said, Arizona, Kyler Murray, that's his best game of the year yesterday. He was great. More than 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., both at 100-plus receiving yards. 2 fourth-quarter scoring drives. They won consecutive games for the first time since October 2021. They cover this point spread. They got to win 3 in a row for the first time since October 21. Murray, after the game, we look for these positive chemistry quotes. Quote, "I like us. I want the ball in our hands. I want the ball in my hands. I want the ball in our hands. With the guys we have offensively, as long as we stay on schedule and execute, I think we can be one of the best offenses in the league." Hung 28 in Miami yesterday, and might be facing a Bears team that Chicago is one of those teams that's in potential to lose the same game twice if they come out to Arizona without the appropriate focus. That being said, the Cardinals' home field has been hit or miss. I'll leave it at that.
Like it, Teddy. Guys, we get a couple more afternoon kicks. We get the Monday Nighter coming your way as well. Let us know in the comments below. Any questions, fire away. Where you agree, where you disagree, where you're watching from. All is welcome. Bunch of comments on last week's video and a couple questions I think we'll have time to get to at the end of the show. Also, remember, check out Teddy Covers, myself, Drew Martin, WagerTalk.com, all the WagerTalk handicappers. Most action-packed month. For under $8 per day, you get every play from every sport, NFL, college football. We got the World Series going on. We got college basketball tipping off soon, NBA rocking. Teddy, number one, if not near the top in his NBA as well. He obviously knows his NFL, so go check that out, guys. 30-day all access for under $8 a day. Probably your best bet if you're looking to jump on premium picks. We got next game up, Teddy. LA Rams, Seattle Seahawks, pick 'em, or actually both teams laying 1 in this one. 48.5 being the total, depending where you're shopping here. Rams -1, Seahawks -1, or pick 'em, Rams at Seahawks. Next game up.
And there's one other promo I want to talk about, because this is I always encourage people, if you're going to get on board with a pass, not with a play. And right now, you get every play every day for the end of the season. NFL or college football season passes. Take $50 off. Promo code FBALL50 at checkout. Again, $50 off any full season pass, NFL or college. And there's no nonsense with these. You buy the pass, you get every play every day for the rest of the year. You get all the 5%, you get all the postseason. There's no BS. Promo code FBALL50 if you want to get on board. Take $50 off that long-term package. Now we're talking about what the Rams and the Seahawks. Look at the wager. My power look at line here. This is an interesting one. Look at line here. Seattle -3, 48.5. My powering number, LA -1. The markets open Seattle -1/1.5, 48.5 last night. And we have seen some Rams money. Pick them. The prevailing number right now, I would say there are some ones out there. And the Rams have a little bit extra time. They played on Thursday night. They're coming off, obviously, a quality win against a quality team with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both back in the lineup. They combined 12 catches, 157 yards and a touchdown. Stafford threw 4 TDs. Kyron Williams had room to run. They went 3 for 3 in the red zone. Sean McVay. I believe in this group. I saw resolve. I didn't see a flinch. We've done a good job of getting ourselves back to where we wanted to be. They can go to 500 with a victory here and put themselves back in position to make a second half run like they've done several times in recent years. Matthew Stafford talked about the return of Nacua and Kupp. They brought a ton of energy to our team and a ton of confidence. It's not just only the offense. I know the defense feels it too when those guys are out there making plays. That is a bet-on quote. That being said, their pass defense still ranked number 30 in DVOA. Some concerns for LA against the pass. But, I mean, Geno yesterday for Seattle, the first game all year, we didn't throw a touchdown pass. They were outgained by more than 200 yards. They didn't have DK Metcalf and then proceeded to convert exactly once on third down. 11 penalties, 2 turnovers, 1 of 3 in the red zone. Stuffed at the goal line when the game was still in doubt. Head coach Mike McDonald. That's a result of a good football team that outplayed us in 3 phases. And then it gets out of hand when you're doing the things we did today. The long and short of it is we got outplayed, we got outcoached, and we've got to make it right. That being said, they're 1-4 their last 5 games. The only win coming in a notable flat spot for Atlanta. It's I forgot about the fighting on the sideline where Derek Hall got a late hit on Josh Allen that extended a Bills drive. And next thing you know, they're chirping on the sideline. And next thing you know, they're throwing punches. And that's not, again, we're all competitive. But we look for positive team chemistry. What we saw from Seattle yesterday, negative team chemistry. This is not a team headed in the right direction right now. 2 teams headed in opposite directions, in fact.
We get 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific up next. Detroit Lions, Green Bay Packers, NFC North battle here, Teddy. It is the Lions, -4-point road favorites, 46.5 being the total. Lions at Packers from Lambeau.
Yeah, look ahead line here. Pick 'em, 50.5. Obviously, you have to adjust for Jordan Love's injury yesterday. My adjustment said my power numbers, Detroit 5.5. And I have the Lions currently behind only the Chiefs in my power ratings in the NFL. Second best team in the league. Markets opened 4 and 48.5 last night. And we've seen lots of under money down to 46.5 today. And look, that was a truly brutal spot for Detroit yesterday, and it didn't matter. The coach, Campbell, had them ready, hungry. They were running trick plays. They had more than 300 return yards, counting kicks, punts, and interceptions, which, and they had 5 fumbles in the game. The Lions recovered 4 of the 5. They went 5 of 5 in the red zone, even without Jameson Williams in the lineup. And again, Williams will not be in the lineup again this week, 2-game suspension. Dan Campbell, quote, "We didn't miss a beat." Now, they lost the box score by margin. They got outgained by almost 200 yards, only 4.8 yards per play to 5.9 for Tennessee. They are out first down. Those are completely irrelevant. In a game like this, take the box score numbers and throw them out. They had more points than passing yards in the third quarter, 42.28 passing yards. So, Detroit right now, that's a hot team. I stepped in front of them yesterday in what I thought was a bad spot. And in some ways it was, and it didn't matter. Lions simply too talented. Of course, for the Packers, Jordan Love knocked out of the game. He injured his groin on the first drive and then left the game in the third quarter. Matt LaFleur after, quote, "I have a, quote, high level of concern for his latest injury." Of course, he missed a pair games in September with a left knee injury, and they did just fine with Malik Willis behind center. Malik Willis again yesterday, 11.2 yards per pass attempt and 6-yard rush. Doing some stuff right. They don't know with 2 of 6 in the red zone, that's concerned. But it's important to note about this defense. Defense allowed 7 yards per play yesterday for Green Bay. They now have 19 takeaways through 8 games. That's the most in the National Football League. That's one more takeaway than they had all of last season. So at least some of Green Bay's early season success, we have to say, I'm not going to say it's luck related, but, takeaways and living on turnover margin will only get you so far. And certainly it's not something you can rely on game in, game out, especially against a team like the Lions. So this is one spot where Green Bay may wish they had their starting QB against a Detroit team that's pretty freaking hot right now.
Absolutely. We got one game left here on Sunday. We'll hit the Monday nighter and then take any questions, guys. So fire away in the live chat. Also in the comments below if you're watching on replay. We get Jacksonville and Philadelphia here, Teddy. Eagles, -7. There is a -7 in the hook out there. 45.5 being the total. There's some 46s as well. So it's Jags at Eagles. This is 1:05 p.m. Pacific. So 4:05 afternoon kick here. Jags at Eagles.
Yeah, this one got flexed out so that the Colts-Vikings game will be the Sunday night game this week, and I'm all in favor of that. No problem, because Jacksonville's not a team you want to see on national TV these days. Look ahead line, Eagles -6.5 total. Is that 6.5 or 6? I think it's 6.5. Yes, 47.5. My powering number was 7.5. The markets opened 7 last night and 48, and we're seeing 7.5s popping. You can still find both numbers as we record. And again, when you can find widely available a 7 and a 7.5 as a better, it makes your job so much easier. You lay 7 if you like the favorite. You take 7.5 if you like the dog. These are little edges. Over time, they will make you money. So what happened with Jacksonville yesterday? The offense worked, finally, but the defense didn't. This team hasn't played a lick of complimentary football in the last, basically since last year at this time, since they collapsed down the stretch and started out this year 2-6. They had 7.0 yards per play. That's great. 3.3, 3 touchdowns and 3 red zone tries, but only 1 of 9 on third downs. And they can't stop the run now. Josh Jacobs, 127 yards on the ground against them, 170 total. Trevor Lawrence rallied the Jags back from a 10-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Hit Evan Ingram for the game-tying touchdown. But why do they have to rally back? Because Lawrence fumbled at the 5-yard line. And he threw a pick, and they kept multiple Packers on the drives alive with penalties. Trevor Lawrence after the game, we've got to play cleaner. Worth noting, And this team did rally. They started 2-6 in 2022 and then made the playoffs. They rallied. But you look at the next 4 weeks, they got Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, Houston. There'll be dogs in all those games. We've got a head coach and Doug Peterson on the hot seat very much right now. The GM, Trent Baalke, he's in the hot seat too. The owner said he wants to make the playoffs this year. And they lost all their starting receivers yesterday. Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis got hurt, and Kirk's injury may be serious. They lost a cornerback, Ron Darby. They lost a right guard, Brandon Sheriff, and the left guard, Ezra Cleveland. These are problems for the Jags moving forward. Meanwhile, Philly, remember, the Philly stinks right now, right? No, they're 4-1 straight up the last 5 ball games. They made me money yesterday. And they're still strong in the trenches. They can run 161 yards on the ground. They can stop the run. Only allowed 58. Jalen Hurts was not sacked yesterday. Saquon Barkley had another 100-yard game. Devonta Smith coming off a nice bounce-back game after a no-show. A.J. Brown, the weapon stepped up, against Cincinnati. 6.7 yards per play to 4.8 yards per play and +2 in turnovers. Devonta Smith, positive quote. All the negativity in Philly, quote, we're executing a high level right now. Guys are at the right spot at the right time. Jalen Hurts, I think today was a great team win. Great showing as a team. When you play like that on defense, you're able to stop an offense capable of playing at a high level with the star players they have on that team. That's a great job. Vic Fangio's D played really, really well in that game against Cincy. And, we'll see if Trevor Lawrence has more success against them than Joe Burrow did. But right now, Philly, they're deserving of some betting market respect. And clearly, the line moving to 7.5, they're getting some.
He's Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. You can follow me at Drew Martin Bets. NFL opening line report each and every Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. We got the Monday nighter, November 4th, Tampa Bay and Kansas City, 5:15 Pacific kick. We are seeing the Chiefs -9, Teddy. -8.5 is out there. 44.5 being the total. Bucks at Chiefs from Arrowhead.
Look at line, KC -10, total 45.5. My powering number, KC -9.5. The markets opened 8.5/9 last night, 44.5. And we're seeing, I'd say more 9s and 8.5s, but it's still a split line right now as we speak. And I don't know that this is going to move. Tampa's got issues right now. Obviously, we have no Mike Evans and no Chris Godwin. Baker looked fine yesterday. 9 receivers caught a pass. They went 3 for 3 in the red zone, but they did have turnovers, 3 of them, and the defense didn't force any. Godwin's out for the season. Evans is going to be sidelined at least 3 games. I mean, we saw, Otten and Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer and Rashad White, Bucky Irving all making catches yesterday. Now, they hurt themselves with a failed fake punt. The pass defense is struggling mightily. But Baker Mayfield isn't a quarterback that I'm in a rush to give more than one score to. And, I mean, for Kansas City, look, DeAndre Hopkins, 3 targets, 2 catches, 29 yards. But again, when the one guy comes that attracts some attention, the other guys get the benefit. Travis Kelce had a big day. Xavier Worthy had a big day. They finished 12 of 16 on third downs. Lots of dink and dunk, but Patrick Mahomes is great at that. Andy Reid, by the way, talking about Hopkins. Quote, he wanted to be in there, which is a positive thing. He'll get more chances the next game if you're prop betting, something worth noting for that. And, of course, the Chiefs defense, they allowed 33 yards on the ground, along with 7 on the 21 carries for Las Vegas. Defensive end George Karlaftis. Quote, for us, being able to stop the run is the primary goal every single week. We make them one-dimensional. That's where we want to be. Against Tampa, Tampa's not a heavy running team to begin with, so I don't know that that's necessarily a strength. And it's worth noting KC's only turnover. It came on a sequence where they had 3 straight penalties, 1 on special teams, then 2 holds, and Mahomes was forced to throw from his own 2-yard line. And they still didn't give up a point on it. The defense had a goal line stand. That said, KC's playing 1-score games. The defense had a 2-touchdown lead, and Raiders boom, boom, boom down the field into the end zone. The Chiefs were very comfortable trading clock ticks for yardage on that last Raiders drive, which could very well be a concern on Monday night against Baker Mayfield in a pretty good Tampa passing game, even without their top 2 receivers.
We got B Daddy in the house, Lawrence Presman, Victor Rivera, Zorn, Sports Avenger. All you guys, love seeing you in the comments, just breaking down each and every game. We got comments from last week's show and a couple questions here, Teddy. We got a couple minutes to hit, so feel free to fire away in the live chat. Also in the comments below, we get Poppy11 asking, do you mind sharing which sites you use for a deep dive on stats?
There's a bunch of sites that I use. All right. They really are. So, and it's a good question. But for some of the yards per play, because I got teamrankings.com. It has it for a bunch of sports, and that's really good for your yards per play number. NFL.com's got some good stats. ESPN has got some good stats. And I'm going to use a mix and match from my personal statistical profile. But the one that a lot of people don't use that I have no hesitation recommending is that teamrankings.com. Good yards per play numbers for offensive and defense, and I use that every week.
I like team rankings as well, guys. Teddy, we got a couple Al in the house from last week saying he's in the dentist chair for the next hour. Thanks for helping deal with the pain. That's perfect place to watch the NFL opening line report, right?
Sure. So
Teddy,
I was, I had my little dental emergency, was it a week ago Friday, a week and a half ago. And I get to go for the follow-up tomorrow. So that'll be fun. Maybe I'll watch our replay when I'm sitting in the dentist chair for the follow-up appointment tomorrow when they start pulling the stitches out or whatever it is. I'm not looking forward to it, Drew. I'm really not. Probably right around this. I think it's 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's right around this time. Yeah.
Teddy, one I've been holding on to, this is a question that I have for you. You mentioned New England there in the quarterback, Drake May, possibly playing. And also, it's the top 2 games on Sunday. Cleveland, the Browns with Jameis Winston. Something that I've noticed from doing the show with you is, yes, the side market will be in tune to it, but I still think there's value on this totals move with quarterbacks like Jameis Winston. I was talking about it with Dan right before we went on. Like, he is such a great over quarterback because his weakness is throwing the ball to the other team, and interceptions aren't necessarily bad for overs. You think there's something to that value in the totals market, depending on which quarterback plays more so than the sides market?
Absolutely, there's value. I mean, you nailed it. For New England, we've talked about Jacoby Brissett as check down Charlie. All right, he's not going to make mistakes. He's not going to throw a whole lot of interceptions. He's going to be real comfortable taking what the defense is giving. And New England, with Jacoby Brissett, when they move the football, they tend to be long, slow, methodical drives. You put May in the game, and May's going to take downfield shots, and May's going to turn the ball over. So from a total standpoint, it's completely different. Cleveland's in a similar boat right now. I love Jameis quoting Eminem yesterday. Take your shot. Quote and lose yourself. You only get one shot, and let's take advantage. Jameis is going. There's a reason that Winston, in situations where he thought he was going to get a chance, didn't win starting jobs. He won the starting job in New England and New Orleans. He didn't win the starting job here. And then when and there was another situation where I thought, maybe he'll be able to compete. And he's always been the guy sitting on the bench, not the guy putting in that they put in the lineup. And that's because, in large part, he's got a real quirky personality. He's a fun kid. Everyone likes him. But he, in terms of ball security, he's going to take shots and he's going to throw picks. And that's an over quarterback. And that ball security is very much an issue for Winston throughout the course of his career. Now he's getting another shot. And the ball security was I guess, fine yesterday. But it's definitely, when we're considering these totals, it's definitely something worth noting that one quarterback can play a much more conservative style and another one much more aggressive. And the team's personality can change very dramatically between one QB and the next.
Teddy, one for you. Would Tua be worth the most to the point spread out of any other player in the NFL? I'm not saying he's the best player in the NFL, but when he's in compared to with like another quarterback was out, do you think any other player in the NFL is worth more than Tua to the point spread?
So it's enough. So the issue is not Tua. The issue is who Miami has behind Tua,
which is half the equation, right?
Yeah, that's it's more than half the equation. It's the drop off. It's not necessarily who the QB is. It's the drop off between the starter and the next guy. And Miami has shown us this season two things. One is the offense is non-functional when Tua is not behind center, regardless of who they've had behind. They've had to tie multiple guys, and it's been. The offense just has been flat out awful. It doesn't work. They don't have a QB that can chuck it downfield. The other thing that we've seen from Miami, very clearly, at least in my mind, is that defense. When Tua's not out there, they can give a crap. They're like, yeah, whatever. I've seen more quit in that defense, more struggles from that defense. The whole team energized, just like we talk about that Matthew Stafford quote, where Stafford even the defense got up because we got these guys back. That's real. If the defense knows our offense stinks, we have to get, we give up a touchdown, we're screwed and the game's over. When they give up that touchdown and the offense is coming back, you see a lot of let going of the rope. And I saw that a lot from Miami when Tua wasn't there. So the whole chemistry of the team changed without the starting QB. And obviously for me, that's going to factor into what you're going to say was worth the most. But it's not that Tua's the best. It's that Miami spent no money on their backup quarterback position, and it showed. And because of that, the rest of the team, when Tua's not there, the efforts weren't what we like to see.
Well said, Teddy. Guys, check out the premium picks, WagerTalk.com. Get a package. We got the most action-packed month, under $8 a day. Teddy covers, Drew Martin, all the Wager Talk handicappers on that. You get every sport, every play. That's one way to go at it. Teddy, I'll throw it over to you. Anything else before we shut this down?
Yeah, I want to give out that promo code one more time for the rest of the season. For NFL or college football season pass, FBall50. Take $50 off in a season. And again, it's if you want to get on board, get a package. Again, this wasn't my best weekend in the NFL, to put it mildly. That being said, we're still at 63% over the last 5 weeks, and I expect to make money in November and December and January in this league. So if you want, get on board. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Again, we appreciate the likes, we appreciate the follows, and we appreciate the comments very, very much. Both Drew and I make sure that we get into the comment section at least a couple of times throughout the course of the week, and I try to reply to every single one of you guys. So thank you. And good luck.
Yeah, I'll be in there as well, guys. In the comments below, let us know you're watching. Any questions, fire away. We'll hit them on next week's show. For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. That does it for Week 9 NFL Opening Line Report. We'll be back next Monday. Come back and join us. Week 10 NFL OLR. Teddy Covers, Drew Martin checking out. Cash those tickets, guys. Thanks for tuning in.